Hi, welcome to Simple Logistics. Today we are going to talk about Incoterms. We are going to talk more specifically about the changes that happened to the Incoterms in the 2020 version of the Incoterms. Incoterms, for those of you who are not familiar with the term, are the international terms of commerce. They kind of dictate what is in the cost of the goods and what is left out and is buyer's responsibility. So when you quote some product, especially from abroad, it's very important to pay attention to the Incoterm that the seller is using when you're comparing different quotations from different suppliers, it's even more important that you're comparing the same terms because they can really, really change the price of the product. I'll give you guys a few examples. The Incoterm EXW, which is it stands for X Works, is an Incoterm where the seller, the exporter, he has almost no responsibility. He'll give you the price of the good at his premises, at his warehouse, or at his manufacturing facility. And the buyer, the importer, is responsible for picking up the product at the supplier's facility. It's responsible for custom clearance at origin. It's responsible for international transport, sea or air. It's responsible for custom clearance at destination and is also responsible for final transport from port or airport to the buyer's facility or to the buyer's warehouse. This is the Incoterm where if you are the seller, if you are the exporter, you can offer the smaller price. But that's because custom clearance and transport, transport insurance, all those things, all those costs are buyer's costs. You have all other Incoterms, which are very common also, like CIF. CIF, it stands for cost, insurance, and freight. And then the responsibilities are much more shared between the seller, the exporter, and the importer. With the CIF Incoterm, the seller, the exporter, is responsible for supplying the goods. So that's where the C for cost comes in. He's responsible for transport insurance, and he is responsible for the international freight until the chosen port or airport of the destination country or the buyer's country. So with CIF, there is a lot more cost on the buyer side. So he'll probably offer you a bigger ticket, a bigger price on the goods. If you compare two quotations, one is Xworks, another is CIF, the prices may be very different, but depending on how much transport you buy, how much leverage you have with carriers, maybe it's even cheaper to buy the product with the CIF Incoterm and leave those responsibilities for the supplier. So basically, there are several types of Incoterms, and they all kind of define which parts of the transport, insurance, and customs work is whose responsibility. So Incoterms are very important. They are usually used globally. So most suppliers everywhere on the globe know how Incoterms work, and also there are legal how can I say, there is a legal standing on the Incoterms. So if the seller doesn't fulfill their responsibilities according to the Incoterm that was decided during the negotiation, you can always take into arbitration because the Incoterms are valid everywhere, and there are arbitration rules, and there are arbitration houses in every country where you can take disputes regarding international trade, regarding the use of the Incoterms. You are basically covered if you know how the Incoterms work, if you use them correctly when buying something abroad. So now let's talk about the changes to the Incoterms that happened in the 2020 revision of the Incoterms. So there are revisions every 10 years of the Incoterms. The International Chamber of Commerce, ICC, which is based in London, is the international body responsible for keeping the Incoterms and for revising the Incoterms every 10 years. The first Incoterm to be revised was the DAT Incoterm, which was dropped. It was delivered at terminal. That Incoterm was dropped, and now there is another Incoterm to replace it, which is DPU, delivered at place unloaded. So they say these reflects better because not always DAT was used to deliver goods at terminals. Sometimes it was to deliver goods at a warehouse or a bonded warehouse or a port or something. So they prefer to change the Incoterm name to DPU, delivered at place unloaded. And these also explains that, unloading responsibility is not seller responsibility. They tried to update and changes to CIP and CIF, reflecting insurance and then reflecting the issuing of the bill of lading, which is a boarding document for goods. There is also some small modifications to FCA, which stands for free at carrier. It's when the seller delivers the product at a carrier in the origin country, carrier chosen by the buyer, and FCA is kind of replacing other in use. It's growing and it's replacing other Incoterms such as the X Works that we talked about before. So FCA is growing in importance. They wanted to make it more clear what were all the responsibilities on the FCA because now it is used a lot in international trade. So basically, there were small updates, small modifications to the Incoterms. If you use them a lot, if your company is involved in international trade, I recommend that you buy a brochure from the International Chamber of Commerce. It's kind of expensive, but if you use it a lot, it's important to know exactly what each Incoterm stands for. So it's important to buy the official information from ICC and to have it on hand to as a reference material whenever you are making a quotation, either for export or to import goods. Okay, so those were my tips for today regarding Incoterms. We'll come back with new material explaining better the Incoterms in other videos. Okay? Thank you very much. Bye,